Kickstarting with our top focus at this hour and continuing here on WION, India and China agreeing to end the standoff on the Doklam plateau. A statement from India's External Affairs Ministry said, and I'm quoting here, expeditious disengagement of border personnel at the face-off site at Doklam has been agreed to and is ongoing, unquote. The statement added that the two countries had been in touch diplomatically on the issue for some time. It said that India had conveyed its views, its concerns and interests to the Chinese. The standoff began on June 16th when Chinese troops began laying a road on the plateau. China claimed ownership of the plateau, even though Bhutan also claims ownership. The two sides have held several rounds of discussions on it, but inconclusively so. There was an understanding which included India and that neither side would alter the status quo on the ground. China's road building violated that understanding. At Bhutan's request, India sent in troops to stop the Chinese road building. This was the first time that India has intervened in support of a third country against China. Let's now listen in to what the Chinese spokesperson Hua Chunying had to say.
The Chinese has confirmed this. Chinese will, inconsistent with the historical rights, to maintain its territorial rights. The Chinese government always respect friendly relations with its neighbors and look forward to India to respect the international law and maintain peace and stability in the border area and promote the relationship between the two countries.
There have been a plethora of reactions coming in, cutting across various quarters. Let's listen into some of those.
My sense is that if the disengagement protocol is adhered to in a mutually acceptable manner, it would be a very major gain for India and China, and the political leadership in both sides should be commended for the manner in which they have handled it. India has shown very, very commendable levels of restraint, firmness, and also I think a certain respect for the protocol of how to deal with a major power like China in such a situation.
All right, so those are some initial reactions coming in after first signs of a thaw emerging between India and China. Let's get in some further perspectives from Phunchok Stobdan, who is a China expert, joining us on the broadcast here on WION. Appreciate your joining us and speaking to us. Help us understand what the official stance of the Chinese side is at this moment. Phunchok Stobdan, if my voice is going through to you.
I couldn't get your question.
Sure, no worries. I'll repeat it for you. Help us understand and elaborate for our viewers what the official stance of the Chinese side is at this moment.
I don't know what is the Chinese position. I only know the statement given by our spokesperson.
Yes.
That there will be disengagement at the Doklam. So I understand, and if that is so, I think it's a huge victory for diplomacy on the both sides, both India and China. And this is now the opportunity for both India and China to sit together and resolve all the outstanding issues, whether it is in Doklam, whether it is in other LAC areas. So we should congratulate the LSA, the Foreign Secretary, our leadership. It's a huge victory. I think we both sides have got out of this funny situation that we were caught into, and I'm sure a lot of hard work must have gone into it, especially from our side, and we have shown sufficient maturity to resolve this issue.
Absolutely. Disengagement there after the 2-month-long standoff. But Phunchok, let me also ask you this. As you pointed out, what we've got so far is a reaction coming in from the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson. As a part of that, a briefing as well. No statement officially has come in. Having said that, as a part of that statement, the spokesperson mentions that the troops will make adjustments in the deployment of forces on the Doklam plateau. Help our viewers understand what these adjustments could mean.
Yeah, I think in a way, if you go into details, I don't know what disengagement would mean.
Yes.
I would presume that our side will withdraw the original position, which is at the Doklam on the Sikkim side. And I don't know from their point of view, what is the withdrawal from their side? Is it about the road? Is it about the dispute? Is it about deployment of their forces in a disputed territory between Bhutan and China? What is the disengagement from the Chinese perspective? I'm not very clear. If it is about the road, the statement from our side doesn't say anything about the stoppage of road construction by the Chinese on the Doklam Plateau.
Absolutely. Also, let me ask you this. Is the Chinese side, according to you, trying to, at this point, give an impression that this was a unilateral withdrawal?
I don't know if the agreement has been reached. It must have been reached mutually, but I think Chinese must have waited for the Indian side to issue the statement first. And this is, I think, probably we are caught into that when the Indian side has made the statement as if we have blinked first. I think this is what the Chinese are trying to say, that. Of course, this is just a matter of interpretation. Eventually, both sides will stick to their agreement, whatever it is.
Yes.
Who is withdrawing first, who is withdrawing second, that's not the issue. But yes, in these circumstances, in the current atmosphere, this would also matter. Who blinked first?
Absolutely. Do we expect an official statement to come in from the Chinese side beyond what the Foreign Ministry spokesperson has stated?
I don't think so, because we don't know the details.
Yes.
In terms of reference, we don't know the protocol. What does it mean by disengagement? If we have moved inside Doklam and we pull out now over a period of time or over a period of hours, and in what rate, is any frequency, we really don't know the details. And from their point of view, if the road construction has come up to 2 kilometers inside the Doklam, then they must pull back. Those things are not given in the press statement issued by any spokesperson. The Chinese are also not saying anything about it. I think it's just a pronouncement. The both sides are disengaging.
So a lot of
details need to come.
Absolutely, more details do need to come. A lot of ambiguity at this point, and more so because there's not been any official statement coming in from the Chinese side. What we do have right now is the Indian Ministry of External Affairs issuing that statement, post which, just to get our viewers abreast as well, there was a briefing by the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson. Beyond that, there's been no official statement coming in from the Chinese side, which is causing this ambiguity on what this disengagement would really mean and the implementation of that. Funchok, also, as many experts have been voicing this sentiment that perhaps the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's impending visit for the BRICS summit was a catalyst or a trigger for this thaw. Would you agree?
I would say yes, because the Chinese were going very, very systematic on this Doklam issue. They were building up from a military belligerent statement to media to all sorts of psychological campaign. Probably now they would go for the next stage of escalation, which is diplomatic and also legal. I think BRICS could have been used by the Chinese to isolate us at the multilateral forum. So I don't think it is advisable for anyone to escalate the matter at that level to the multilateral forum. Either boycotting or they are not inviting or we are not going. That is little, stretching things beyond a point. I'm sure both sides must have realized it. Prime Minister not going there would also prove that the BRICS would fail, would be a failure. If they are not inviting us, then it would also be seen as they have tried to isolate us from the multilateral forum. So it is neither a good thing for China or for India. It's a very sensible step that both sides have taken if this disengagement news is correct.
Yes, but we as of now do not know what this disengagement exactly would mean. So there is a lot of ambiguity, more so because there's been no official statement from China.
We need to be very careful.
Yes.
And I just saw 2-3 lines issued by MEA. There also it doesn't specify anything about the stopping of the road building by the Chinese side. I'm sure it is just part of the agreement. Who will announce it first, who will go to media first. That itself seems to be a very tricky issue now.
All right, Funchok Stobdan joining us for that. Appreciate your time and those views and perspectives coming in on this first sign of a thaw emerging between India and China. What exactly would the disengagement mean on the Doklam Plateau? A lot of ambiguity because more so because there's been no official statement coming in from the Chinese side beyond a spokesperson's reaction from the foreign ministry. Let's also listen in to some more reactions coming in at this point.
It is a tremendous diplomatic victory for our country that both the countries' armies have agreed to pull back. This standoff was going on since about 2 months, and despite Chinese threats through media that we should withdraw, otherwise there will be a war, we were hanging on there. All the credit goes to the government decision to hang on there, and that's why we have got a diplomatic victory.
The breakthrough between the two big countries, India and China, is a great message for both the countries. It is a very happy situation that both countries have agreed to withdraw their forces from the Doklam Plateau. This message will go that both such big countries can solve their problems among themselves without involving any nation like UNO and other countries also.
For more than 70 long days, the world has watched a border standoff between two major Asian powers, and WION has been your window to understanding this conflict. Catch the biggest voices on India and China only on WION.
When the story is China, the destination is WION.
Both sides are not willing to immediately publicly appear to be compromising. Indian side is making some gestures, but Chinese side, at least the media, is not making the gesture.
The sharpest analysis.
If Doklam does not resolve, then such a possibility of an intrusion in another sector where they have a military advantage may take place.
The widest perspective.
I don't think that China is interested in foreign adventures.
China don't want a war with any country, especially we don't want any war we don't want a China-India war.
The biggest names.
China is mounting pressure. It's waging a psychological war.
And the strongest opinion. WION, Eye on China.